This book is called I'm Trying to Hide the Fact That I'm Growing Out a Pixie Head with an Accessory. Hi, my name's Emily, and today I thought I'd show you guys some of my favorite books of 2016. Some of these have come out in 2016, and some of them haven't. They're just the books that I have read this year. There's just 6 of them. I've read more than this, but I have a habit of rereading when I should really just read new books. So these are new ones. These are ones that I have read for the first time this year. A lot of them are pretty new books came out in 2016, or I'm pretty sure all of them are out in print right now, but before they were all out in print, I had them as advanced reader copies. Some of them are not, but some of them are. So anyway. Okay, so starting probably with the ones that I read first this year, I got hooked on this book, and it's by an author that I've read a few other books by him, and I've liked them, but this one really just amazing. Honestly, one of my favorite books, reminiscent for me of the book Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury. That is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. And this book is centered around a kid that I would tell you his name, but it's never mentioned. You don't find out who the narrator's name is. You just know that he's about 7 years old. And it's about this spiral down when he meets these neighbors that he has at the end of the lane in his country home, and that something's not quite right, and that things are a lot stranger than they seem, and as he's a little kid, he sees those things, and it's a fairy tale for adults, is what I've heard it described as, and I think that's really appropriate because it really is kind of a fairy tale in its own right. And I loved it. Probably my favorite work by Neil Gaiman. I intend to read more, but yeah, I would recommend this one highly to anyone who is into magical realism. So this book came out in July of 2016. I had it a little bit before that, but it is this book called All the Time in the World. This book was actually really interesting. I got into it really quickly. Twice this year because I liked it so much the first time. And it's about this girl named Charlotte, and she's a musician, and it's all about her journey of getting thrown off of this path that she had planned for herself. And it's all about just learning to, for one thing, accept things as they come in her life. It was really good. It's kind of funny. The character is pretty relatable, and I recommend it pretty highly. And if you get a chance, All the Time in the World, it's out now. It's really good. It's by Caroline Angel. So both of those books have been pretty serious or not super funny. But one kind of book that I am into kind of a lot is hilarious books and just comedies. And I read this book this year too. It's also out in print now, but it was not at the time that I bought it. It is called Sober Stick Figure by Amber Tozer, and it's a memoir. And I know what you're thinking, because it's a memoir, it's probably not going to be that interesting or anything, which I thought too. I'm with you on that. But honestly, read this book. It's so hilarious. She's got a lot of illustrations, and she's obviously not someone who's artistic at all, but it has been really funny. I got hooked on it. I couldn't stop reading it. I work at a gas station, so I can read quite often there because it's pretty slow, and at night when you're just closing by yourself, there's not a whole lot to do, so you just kind of read for a couple hours, which is really nice. But anyway, I read this book probably in 2 nights when I was working at the gas station. Really good, really funny, and like it makes light of such a serious situation, and I appreciate that about her writing, because sometimes you take things a little too seriously and then you let them become a sob story, but like Amber Tozer definitely did not let it become a sob story. She made it into something funny, and it ends very abruptly, and that's kind of a good part about it for me, as I know a lot of people aren't, but I really like ambiguous endings, and I thought that it was really good, and I hope she comes out with more books, because honestly, in this book she talks about her struggling with being an alcoholic, actually, and it's about her, not only her recovery, but like her whole journey through being an alcoholic, and she just makes light of such a crazy situation, and she's a relatable character because she's so flawed and she knows it. And I just think that definitely read this book and laugh and think, hey, you know, things don't have to be so like down all the time, and her road to recovery was, you know, eventually a positive one. And I appreciate that she put such a positive spin on such what could have been a really negative, sad book, but I liked it. So, Stover's Stick Figure, hilarious book. Recommend. My next book is The Secret Life of Bees, and obviously this book did not come out this year. I don't know what year it came out, but I will look that up for you right now. This book came out in 2002, and my roommate actually, she recommended it pretty highly to me, and she doesn't read that much, so, I mean, she really liked it, so that means something. So I took it, and I had watched the movie before, but I read this book, and honestly, I love this book. It's really good. It really tugs at your heartstrings, and for me, the character is really relatable, and like, I just loved every moment of this book. I think that she read it in high school, and I think that everyone should read it in high school. For me, it was like pretty reminiscent. Okay, it's still recording. For me, it was pretty reminiscent of the book The Help, in a different way, obviously, because the character is like a lot different, I guess, than the character in The Help, but the reason it reminds me of it is it's very like kind of a similar time period, and it's just truly, I love Sumon Kid. I don't know if I'm saying her name right, that's the author, but anyway, this is the first book I've read by her. I don't know if she has any others, but I would definitely be interested in looking for them, because her writing is absolutely amazing. It's heartwarming, it's painful in some parts, and it's just really poetic through the whole thing, the way that she describes things, and I can't help but fall in love with this book. And once again, I read this when I was working at the gas station closing, and I think I read it in like 2 shifts. No, I think I read most of it in 1 shift and then finished it when I got home, because it just got me so much sucked in. So yeah, I definitely like a 10 out of 10. Okay, so then I have 2 books that I don't have physical copies of. One of them I do have a physical copy of. Okay, so it's kind of a lie. I have a physical copy of it, but it is with weird thing, but like I said, I work at a gas station, and there are some people that come in pretty regularly, and like get to know them pretty well, and I lent one of them a book, and it was my favorite book. I've read this year, and he's going to give it back when he finishes it, but it's going to be a while. Anyway, the 2 books I'm going to talk about are, number 1, a book called When You're Engulfed in Flames by David Sedaris. I have it because I have it as an audiobook, and that's how I had it, and it was really good, so we'll get on that later. So anyway, this year I lived alone for quite a while, and it got really boring in my house. I didn't have internet, I didn't have cable or TV or anything to like do with myself. So a lot of times I would just be sitting here, and at the time I was really having a hard time like reading because it's been a long time since I've been able to like sit down and read, and I got bored really easily and I got really sad, and it was kind of like silence like all the time. So what I eventually started doing was using audiobooks to like fill silences with human voices, and that really helped me. And I picked out a book at the beginning of this year because I had read another book by David Sedaris, and that one was Let's Explore Diabetes with Owls, which is a really good book, but I'm not going to talk about it right now because I didn't read it this year. But When You're Engulfed in Flames by David Sedaris was the one that I picked out and played the stories because they really helped me feel better about being alone and just having that like other presence of sort in the house. And it was a hilarious book, and David Sedaris is one of the funniest writers I've ever heard, because I have one of his books. I do have Me Talk Pretty One Day, and I haven't read that one yet, but I heard Let's Explore Diabetes with Owls and When You're Engulfed in Flames, both narrated by David Sedaris. And if you're going to listen to the audiobook by it, definitely get the David Sedaris version because he does a wonderful job of reading it. I can't imagine hearing it by anyone but him. That's why I don't really care to read them that much by him, is the hearing them is better. Because he lived through the experiences. And truly his experiences are strange, and I appreciate hearing about them because it kind of reminds you that your life can be really strange if you just say yes and let it be strange, even if you're a pretty reserved person. So yeah. When You're Engulfed in Flames by David Sedaris is definitely a book that I would recommend very highly to anyone who asked. And finally, we get to my favorite book of 2016, Tuesday Nights in 1980 by Molly Pruitt. And oh my god, this book got me so good. It's all about art in 1980s. If you've seen the musical Rent, kind of reminiscent of that, in the sense of, I would never recommend this to a younger or like a younger reader for one thing, or someone who's like more reserved and doesn't really like to read books that like are kind of raunchy in their own way, because it does get pretty intense in some parts, and that's what it really reminds me of. It's a book about the 80s, so it's pretty similar to Rent in some certain aspects, but the difference really is that it's completely about art, and it explores just tragedy for one thing in this character named Raoul's life, and it explores, you know, trying to learn to control your own emotions. And before they had a name for it, really, I think my interpretation of one of the characters is that he had synesthesia, which is where you like hear something or you do something and it reminds you of like something else. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example of like, if you hear a note, like hear the E note on piano or something, you'd be like, oh, that's yellow, and things like that. I look into synesthesia actually, it's really interesting. And a lot of artists actually have it. But it's all about just the exploration of these different people in New York's life and the way they just intertwine with each other. And it's all about these people in New York and their lives and how they all intertwine with each other, which it ends up being that part of it's about like the fact that everything you do affects someone else, and that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, you know what I mean? And that you're never truly alone. Some people can handle the hustle and bustle and some people can't, and that's not a bad thing, it's just a thing, you know? Really, really good book, and I would recommend it to everyone. That's a lie. I would not recommend it to anyone. Like I said, it's not really for younger readers or people who are a little bit about things like sex and drugs and, you know, if you didn't like the movie Rent, I don't think you'd like this very much. But if you are open to most anything, then Tuesday Nights in 1980 is definitely for you. One of my favorite books, not only of the year, but of any book I've ever read, and definitely give it a shot. So that's all the books I have for you today. If you liked this video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like, and comment some of your favorite books of 2016 below. It doesn't matter if they came out this year or if they didn't, just what you read this year. What did you like? What didn't you like, for that matter? Share this video with Facebook, you know, Twitter, Tumblr, whatever you can, or don't. Do what you do, anyway. So yeah, my name's Emily. I am trying to start making videos. Trying being the key word, so give me a chance, please, maybe. I'll get it if you don't want to, but I really wish you would. Anyway, subscribe, like, comment. Alright. So that's all I have for you today. Have a good one.